have with us our board chairman for Bridge Street Mission, Joel Rueber, with us on the bench. And so while I was sitting on this bench, something significant happened last night. I heard. In your life?
Oh, yeah, we had a little retirement redeployment celebration, and thank you to my clients that have been with me for the last number of years. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So for the sake of everyone, you've been a financial advisor with Thrivent.
Yep.
And you've just ended that.
Yep.
So congratulations on that,
you.
and thank you for helping me and many others in that role.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
And while you're in that role, you also took time to be a part of Bridge Street Mission on the board. So why don't you maybe talk about your Bridge Street Mission journey, and that might be useful for folks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So one of the offices that I had for a while was in a building that was owned by the mission founder, Heath Tappy. So Heath was my landlord, and so he would come by the building from time to time, and I just asked him what was going on in his life. And he started telling me about the gazebo outreach that he was doing with, I think he had 4, maybe 5 kids at that point in time, maybe 6. And I said, "You're doing what?" And and that just started a conversation of where the Lord had placed him and his family in his life, and gave me some exposure to the magnitude of the homelessness and those that are struggling with a number of issues, even if they may have a place to live in the Wausau community. And then as he was trying to get organized as official 501c3, which is what Bridge Street Mission is, he said, well, that means we need a board and somebody with some organizational skills and administrative skills, and I think you've got some talent there.
Mm-hmm.
And would you consider serving? And that was 8 years ago, I think.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So it's been an amazing journey, and I'm very grateful to Heath and Tracy and the work that they've started, and bringing me and pulling me alongside. And so hopefully I've had a chance to do that with others as well.
Yeah, so excellent. So a number of the conversations yesterday went around some of the new things that we were doing, acquiring the new building, expanding the outreach center, working hard to open women's ministry, and then ultimately even getting into the emergency shelter business coming up here very shortly. And so one of the things that came across there that I tried to communicate is that we are a very young ministry, and not really that large of a ministry, and that it was really pretty much a large, courageous decision by our board to take on both of those projects, the relocation and expansion, and then right in the midst of that, taking on another very significant step. So can you walk us through why why would we do this?
Yeah. That brings a number of thoughts to my head on that question.
And before you answer, I just have to say, sometimes I thought when I ended up out here last night, I was thinking, why did I agree to do this?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's kind of the same way. Wow. Why are we?
What were we thinking? What were we thinking?
Exactly.
What were we thinking?
So
exactly?
Why don't you enlighten our listeners? What were we thinking as a board and as leadership of the mission?
Yeah.
And really the why.
Sure.
The why. I think I know the answer, but I'd like for our audience to hear as well.
Yeah. I think, for me, and I hopefully I speak with for the whole board and was in what the Lord put on their hearts. But we really feel a calling to this work. Scripture is pretty clear that we're called to take those that don't have the same fortunate situations or have made poor choices, regardless of what the nature are, to serve them and to bring them into a deeper relationship with Christ. So whether it's the magnitude of the work of just they need someplace a decent they deserve a decent place, just like we'd all like a decent place to eat a warm meal, and they have food insecurities, or they don't have a place to get out of the elements during the daytime, or certainly as we're experiencing tonight, being outside. It doesn't take much if you open your eyes and ask that your eyes be open to see the magnitude of the need that's out there. So as you engage in the population and understand the different aspects where they don't have the same resources, don't have the same mindset because maybe they're of addiction issues or other things, to come alongside them and help them. So as you kind of grow in that knowledge of the need, you grow in your understanding of the magnitude and the types of situations and the way of reaching them out. So an outreach center was obviously a first step. Just give them a place, a shelter to come in for the daytime. Then but they go someplace, in the afternoon. Are they on the streets? Well, then you got to find a shelter for them. And then when you see them, the people, men and women that are coming in, and you have 35% that are females, well, you can't just have a shelter for men, so step up and serve the women as well. And then there are not everybody that's going to want to be into the programming. They're not ready for that. And then that's where a need for the community for the 365 shelter to get them out of the elements just makes for us, we just saw that progression of knowledge, progression of awareness. So then hopefully trusting on the Lord and look at building resources to be able to provide those all of those pieces along the journey. But yeah, you have those moments where like when Craig took me to our new building, our Pied Piper, I was very grateful he showed me the space that had been finished off already that we could use for men's, because if he showed me the unfinished space, which we're building out for the females, it's a place like, it looks like the gangsters take the guys they want to knock off, because it's old manufacturing space. I'm like, I'm not a great spatial visionary, but other people are. But you see that, and you're like, we're gonna take this on, and then you hear about some of the challenges that the police department is having operating their 365 shelter. Like, we want to step into that, but yet we felt we were called to that. We were called to do that. So
yeah. So.
That may have been a little long-winded answer.
No. That is awesome. This is a conversation. We've got time.
Okay. Okay.
So I was able to announce, I guess last week, or maybe a week and a half ago, that we actually completed the on-track campaign, which was needed to open the women's.
Hit the goal that we set.
Yes.
Hit the goal that we set.
Yes.
Yep.
And surpass that goal. Yep. And you don't even know yet, but we went up another 60,000.
Actually, I was here earlier, so Ryan shared me the good news. That's fantastic.
So we're at 103% of that, and and that was in 2 years' time that we did that. So I don't want to say were you surprised that it happened, but that quickly. I was optimistic, but I wasn't sure.
Yep.
So maybe your thoughts on how quickly and completely the community stepped up to support our expansion.
Well, on behalf of let me just say on behalf of the board, to those that would be listening on live stream or in tape, thank you for your community members who have supported us in that campaign, and those that support us in our ongoing operating costs. So just incredibly grateful for the community that I live in, and the way that our worshiping communities around, the secular community that has come on, the foundations that have come to support the work that we see the good effort that we're in. We're really appreciative of that. Yeah, you step into these campaigns, even though we had the board was committed to doing it. We ran a feasibility study that kind of set the marker of what we thought was possible. But when you miss some of the early deadlines, we're always, we hit them, but we were always like 2 or 3 weeks behind. All of a sudden, human nature and doubt starts creeping in, and I'm like, well, maybe maybe the Lord's got a different vision for us. Maybe, we're going to do it, but just maybe not as quite as fast or the magnitude. But then when we hit our end goal 3 weeks ahead of the last preliminary benchmark that we had, we just saw the Lord's blessing in that, and pleasantly surprised. But I had my doubts along the way, not significant, but we really appreciated the community support as it's coming around, and the foundation's support as well, particularly. Yeah.
So, in addition to your role as serving on the board and governance, you've gotten involved in the lives of our residents as well. Can you kind of share how you've been involved in that level? Yeah.
So, most recently, we have volunteer drivers. That we have, one of our programming is that we give them some life skills in terms of employment. So we have those working at Goodwill, Northern Industries, a number of places, and also at St. Vincent de Paul's. So, but they don't have a means of getting to some of these public transportation isn't always where they need to go, or the time they need to go it for the schedules they have. And so we have a couple of vans that we use. So we look for volunteer drivers. So I volunteered to step in and to drive a few shifts, just picking up the guys from their work at Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul, and then getting them back, or if they need to make a run to the courthouse or something along the way, to drop them off. And the idea for that specific one was started a couple of years ago, when we were at one of our gala events, and I saw all the guys that were as part of that program go by and talking with Bert. Okay. Who's one of our mainstream drivers, and just talking to him. Then I'm like, what's that about? And he talked about how he just really appreciates that engagement, chance to talk to the guys serving, and how he gets quite a bit out of doing that. As much, he says, more so than they benefit from. So I thought, well, I can be a Bert. I can be a Bert. So took a little hiatus as I wound down my office practice, but I'm looking forward to getting back into that.
So what have you, because a number of people on the bench have already shared that their concept of those struggling with homelessness was one thing before they got into proximity with the people who are actually homeless. But now their view of how they view those who are homeless is now different. So can you give some input? Is that true for you, and how so?
Yeah. And I would maybe to encapsulate it briefly is, you have these. I would say, I'll speak for myself anyway. Our understanding of the complexities of homelessness or housing challenges are limited, and the more you get exposed with the individuals who are dealing with that as an end result, how they got there, convoluted trails. Sometimes you think it was an addiction issue, or it's only an addiction issue, or it's lack of responsibility. No, I mean it's every trail is different, and the twists and turns that it takes. Sometimes it's a very simple one, but most of the times it's a very complex trail. It started at home with a household situation. You can't just the number, like, wow, that is, I can see how you can end it up there. But if I were to, it's like going through a maze. If you were to ask me to draw the line, I would have drawn a straight line. But no, it twists and turned that ended up in the same spot of homelessness, or a fraction thereof.
Complexity is a great word.
Complexity.
Someone else on the bench earlier shared that it was a long journey to get into the need, and so we expect it to be a long journey to get back on track as well. So if it was complex getting off track, it's going to be complex getting back off. Get back on track.
My phrase I use is I grew up in Iowa farming community, so we always talk about how long your row is to hoe.
Okay.
And these men and women have a long row to hoe. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So good. What? Anything else that you want to talk about, or?
No, I think that just maybe ending on that complexity question, and general public's perceptions or lack of awareness, or the just understanding how deep it is, and then how long it is to unravel some of that things. I was when I was back, I worked in Eau Claire for a while, and we had exposure to a Nigerian who had actually married an American, but he had an AIDS ministry over there, and he said, when we were talking to him, I said, "What if there's one thing that you could leave with me that I'm not aware of, what would that be?" And he said he says that most Americans don't know what true hunger is, don't understand the nature of that. And he goes, "I'll give you the example. It's a free AIDS clinic, and so men and women can come and get their treatments, and there's no cost to them for the evaluation and the treatment source. And so we had a woman come in, and had an excellent opportunity for stabilization in her disease, and we gave her the medication, but then she didn't leave. She didn't leave. She just sat there. And so finally, I said, this bio went up, the executive director went up, and he said, you're free to go. You have all the medication, you have your instructions. And she goes, "No, there's no point, because the doctor told me I should take this medicine with food. I have no food." So, for our awareness of what homeless is in America, or other situations of, stability and jobs, anything with addictions, there's just one level that we don't understand, I can understand. I've been out here for an hour and a half now, and I know what it's like when you're camping and you roll off the edge of your mat and you're cold, but I really don't have an understanding of what life is like. I really don't have an understanding of the life that got people into that situation, but I have a compassion to get them out of that.
Very well said.
Incredibly blessed. So,
well, thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
So
thank everybody who's been watching. Thank Craig's for being out here, taking the long shift. So, Lord woke me up at about 3 o'clock to come down here. Thought I would be a walk-in.
We appreciate that. We were getting a little bit bored. It actually looks like we have somebody else waiting for a conversation. I think I recognize the silhouette, but I'm going to wait till he actually gets in the light to know.
Okay,
but
very good.
We'll kind of pass it off to him.
Greg.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Joel.
you, brother.
All right, thank you. All right.